Assalamu alaikum. This is Dr. Rahman, and today we will be learning something about tax. So first of all, we will be learning the definition of tax from a legal point of view. The word tax has been beautifully defined as an amount paid by a person not by will but by the force. An amount paid by a person not by will but by force. For example, if I have earned during this year, so in terms of law we call it an assessment year, the year in which you have earned that income. So let's suppose I have earned an amount of rupees 10 lakhs. Now all of a sudden the central or maybe the state government is asking me, oh you Baba, you have just earned rupees 10 lakhs and now you gonna pay us rupees 1 lakhs as a tax. And it hurts me a lot. I do one thing, I keep on imagining that I have earned these 10 lakhs by facing a lot of hurdles and hardships. Now government is saying you just gonna pay us this much amount of money. And for me, I feel it as a kind of injustice with me. So this amount of 1 lakh that you have paid out of your earned and white income to the central or state government, directly or indirectly, we call it tax. Okay, now $1 billion question that has always been asked, that why do we pay tax? Why we are being charged with this amount? And a very common reason is that the first reason is that tax is the best source of income to the government. Government has to make a lot of expenditures and expenses. Like for example, when you talk of infrastructure, like construction of schools and colleges and universities, roads and bridges, etc., etc. So government does not have its own source of generating this income. So income tax or any other form of a tax is the best source of revenue or income for the government. So this is the first reason why government do charge tax. And the most important reason, the second one, is that it helps us in bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. If you don't have taxation, the people like Mittals, Ambanis, Birlas, Tatas, etc., etc., they'll become richer. And people like all of us will become poorer. So this gap, if tax would not have been there, if taxation would not have been there, this gap would be expanded. It will be elaborated year after year. But when you have taxation, you bridge this gap. So for example, if the people who are at the top and the people who are at the bottom, so this helps us in bridging this gap and making them a close contact. Because there is a beautiful concept in income tax that higher the income and higher will be the amount of tax. If you don't have income, so you never gonna pay it, but indirectly you'll pay. Let's talk about that in the later session, inshallah. Now, let's talk about the classification of taxation. Broadly speaking, we have two categories of tax. One is said to be a direct tax, and the second one is said to be an indirect tax. Now let's talk about the first one first. That is direct tax. What does that mean? Direct tax is an amount paid by any person, and this person does have a very beautiful and broad meaning in terms of law, in terms of tax, that you will learn in the coming classes. Any amount of tax, any portion of your income, when it's being paid to the government, central or state, without any mediator, without any mediator or an agent. So we call that direct tax. For example, if out of my income I have paid rupees 1 lakh to the central government, to the concerned authority, I'll treat it as a direct tax because no mediators, no agents, no intermediaries are involved in between. So we will call this tax as a direct tax. And it includes taxes like income tax, wealth and gift, etc. etc. These are few examples. Now let's talk about the second one, that is indirect tax. And it has been beautifully quoted by someone that even beggars pay tax, and really we pay on every day, on every transaction that when you purchase goods and services, you're gonna pay that. छोटी सी छोटी वो चीज़ क्यों ना हो, if it costs us rupees say 0.25 or say rupees 1 lakhs, and you are paying the tax, not you, everybody, all of us. So we all are taxpayers. Now let's first talk of this definition first. Indirect tax होता क्या है? What does this indirect tax mean? So it's a tax paid by a person not directly, but through certain mediators, through certain intermediaries and agents to the government. For example, let's assume that there's a corporate, there's a company, an automobile manufacturing company. Say Tata is the company there. So हुआ क्या कि they have manufactured a car, say at rupees, say the cost was rupees 4 lakhs. अब 4 लाख की गाड़ी तो उन्होंने बना ली. Now they have put a profit of rupees, say 20,000 per vehicle. And once they have manufactured that, now the government is asking them to pay the tax, their portion. And you're gonna pay that well, you know. 4 lakh की कार तो वहाँ पर manufacture हो चुकी है. That's the basic cost they incur, and 20,000 was the profit. And let's assume all of a sudden they were supposed to pay of rupees 30,000 to the government. And now they put a price of rupees 4,50,000. 4 lakh is the basic cost, 20,000 is the profit, and 30,000 is the tax. Now the car has been shifted, has been transmitted from center of production to the center of consumption. अब कार तो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग जो साइट है वहाँ से निकली है. now it went to the showroom for 450. तो कार अब किसके पास? होलसेलर के पास जा चुके हैं at 450. Now this car was sent from Delhi. अब दिल्ली आ चुके हैं, गुड़गांव से दिल्ली. तो दिल्ली अब it was sent to the valley, say JNK. तो यहाँ पर it was sent say rupees 5 lakhs for retail pricing. तो उसमें है क्या actually? The 4 lakhs, that was the cost incurred by the Tata. 20,000 was the profit and 30,000 was the tax, and 50,000 was charged as a profit and carriage outwards, जिसे हम fair charge कहते हैं. तो the car was sent to the valley for rupees 5 lakhs. तो इसमें एक tax भी है, cost भी है. Now you have two multiple profits. और अब wholesaler say now the car has been moved to shifted towards the retailer, and finally it was purchased by consumers, say a customer like you and me. अब मैं दुकान पे चला गया and I have purchased the vehicle at say 520. What I have paid? I have paid the basic cost, I have paid the tax, I have paid the profit, the multiple profits, the margins. So it is I who have paid this tax ultimately. And this is what we call indirect tax. When you have not paid it directly to the government, but indirectly by consuming, by purchasing certain commodities and goods and services. Actually it was, you know who? It was the Tata who paid tax to the government, but he has shifted his burden to the wholesaler, and wholesaler has shifted his burden to the retailer, and retailer has ultimately charged this tax to a common customer. And this is what we call indirect tax. Hope you got it. Now there are few examples and few chapters that are included in this indirect tax, and there are two more definitions that you can remember. Number first, in case of direct tax, we say that it's a tax where burden of tax can't be shifted. So if you were supposed to pay, you have to pay it. You can't shift it to anybody else. अगर आपने इसको अदा करना है, you have to pay it at any cost. You can't transmit it to your brother and sister and father and oof, yeah, you're gonna pay it instead of mine. No, that's not the problem. That's nowhere an issue. You can't do that. And in case of indirect tax, the burden of tax is easily being shifted from one individual to another, like we have seen in the recent example. That is, Tatas were paid to tax, they have paid, they shifted their burden to the wholesaler, wholesaler has shifted that burden to the retailer, and ultimately that amount was paid by a consumer. This is what we call indirect tax. We have this opportunity and option and alternative to transmit it in case of an indirect tax. But in case of direct taxation, you can't do that. So we have tax like GST, we have customs, we have excises, etc. etc. So hope you got it, inshallah. See you in the next lecture coming soon.